Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. It's all fun and games until someone infiltrates a socialism conference. Oops. So I can't film this in the conference center because the socialism conference is still going on as I'm filming this. This is on Sunday afternoon. There's still a few more sessions I'm going to. We're just on a lunch break, but I just had to take a moment, like, as the conference is kind of wrapping up for me. You guys are not going to believe the stuff I have recorded. Like, I have been listening to real socialist presentations for the past 3 days. We're talking all day. This isn't one or two. This is all day. I have interacted with some of the top socialist organizers in the country.
So Angela Davis is a professor emerita of history of consciousness and feminist studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz.
I've been a communist, socialist, anti-capitalist, internationalist for almost as long as I can remember.
The Socialism Conference is live streaming some of their sessions. I'm getting the stuff they're not live streaming. I don't have everything recorded, but I've got a lot of it recorded. And you guys are going to be shocked. And I can't even, if you thought the Socialist Reproductive Justice Conference that I went to back in April was crazy, this is 19 levels crazier than that. And yes, I did have to wear a mask.
We have a mask mandate. I'm glad y'all cheered for that.
Thank you, Socialism Conference, for providing me with a disguise, but I did also dye my hair. I got new glasses. I got a hat that by pure coincidence, looks just like Socialism Saturday. And I did have to register under a fake name because they preemptively banned me from the conference. I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you guys everything. I can't. I'm never going to be able to pull this stunt again. Someone else is going to have to step up next time. I am never going to be able to pull this stunt again, guys. So I'm going to download everything to you on my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Again, that is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. I'm dripping it out bit by bit because there's so much. If you want to know why the world is going crazy, it is because the people I have spent the last 3 days with are making it go crazy to advance their Marxist revolution. Remember, the 4 goals of the woke left are always and forever the same. Gain as much power as possible, destabilize the system, attack capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. I know how they're going to do it because I've spent the last 3 days listening to them talk about it. But I got to go back now because there's a couple more sessions left to go. I can't wait for you guys to see what I cannot wait to show you guys. You're going to be shocked. Subscribe to the Substack, subscribe to the channel. It's going to be all we're going to talk about for a little bit because there's so much. All right, guys. Pray for me. Cross your fingers. I don't get caught. We'll see you soon. Well. Hey guys, how's it going? What did you do on your long weekend? I went undercover at a conference with 400 socialists. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting stream. We're going to do a little bit of a debrief today because here's the thing, guys. Like I'm going to be on. Can I just be real with everyone for a second? Can I just be real with everyone? Going undercover I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the experience of this past weekend, and we can look at some clips and stuff and I can answer questions. Oh my God. Going undercover at this conference was the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. And, I was fine up until about an hour ago. And up until about an hour ago, it was still very abstract for me what I had done. It didn't seem real. But I want to just warn you guys, I'm a little emotional right now because in the last hour, I've had a flood of emotions from this where it's starting to hit me exactly what I did. And so I might cry. I might get a little emotional. I'm sorry. I didn't expect the timing of this to coincide with this stream. But I can't explain. It's just starting to hit me, to be honest. And so bear with me because I do want to talk about it. But I spent 3 days undercover with socialists. I had to be we're talking all day, every day. I've never been so scared in my life that I was going to get the shit kicked out of me. A couple months ago, we watched, maybe it wasn't a couple months ago, it was a month ago, I think. We watched, yes, Naruto. How did everyone enjoy their socialist holiday? Indeed. Maybe about a month ago in my community we do movie nights on my supporter Discord. And maybe about a month ago, we watched the movie Inception for Reagan's birthday. That was her birthday pick. And if you've seen the movie Inception, there's this part where, what is her name? Elliot Page, formerly Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, I guess, was her and Leonardo DiCaprio were going inside of the dream, and Ellen Page was learning how to play with things in the dream. And every time she changed something in the dream, Leonardo DiCaprio's subconscious would kind of look at her, because Ellen Page wasn't supposed to be there, right? Ellen Page was the foreign element. And so if a foreign element in the movie Inception gets inserted into the subconscious, the subconscious starts to figure it out. And at first they just look at you funny and they're like, what are you doing? And then they start pointing at you, and then they start approaching you, and then they start encircling you, and then they try to kill you. That's what it felt like to me being at the socialism conference. I cannot emphasize this enough. Is I was on guard. I had to be completely calm the entire time and essentially just sit there quietly and listen and make conversation where I had to make conversation, or just like, nod my head or do the fist in solidarity or like whatever. But like I had to be externally facing, I had to be completely calm. I couldn't have any reactions. I couldn't do any of the Did I report to O'Keefe? Fuck no. James O'Keefe is a massive narcissist, and if I went to James O'Keefe with this, he would try to steal my journalism and claim it as his own. James O'Keefe can go fuck himself, and if you have questions about that, you can refer to my in-depth reporting on why James O'Keefe is a narcissist that shouldn't be trusted. I cannot tell you guys how many times in the last couple of days people have been telling me to go to James O'Keefe. Why on earth would I go to James O'Keefe? James O'Keefe doesn't do undercover journalism. James O'Keefe took credit for other people's journalism. Anyway, no more mentions of that asshole. We're talking about me today, the person who actually did the work that James O'Keefe wishes he could do. But coming back to me, being in a room with 400 socialists, like the entire time I was there, I had to be calm and I couldn't have any reaction to anything because everything had to be like, I was like, I had to act like I was one of them, right? And hang on, I'm just gonna adjust my volume because I'm really loud for myself. But inside my head, when I was sitting there, I was having mini panic attacks like all weekend. That's the truth. And there would be times where I have to like be in my head, like talking myself down, like, you are safe, you are calm, you're safe, you're calm, you're protected, and stuff like that, because I was having mini panic attacks that they were going to figure out who I was. Because the socialists did not make it easy for me to infiltrate this conference. The socialists they preemptively banned me from the conference. They canceled my hotel literally as I was flying there. They can't. Well, M-Ball, I don't play with narcissistic assholes that steal other people's work, and James O'Keefe has already tried to steal my work in the past. So you're getting a timeout now, and if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. Thank you, Sin, sending you good vibes. I appreciate that. Guys, I'm being serious. I don't want to hear James O'Keefe's name at all. James O'Keefe doesn't do any real journalism. He just steals other people's work. And I've had to listen to people tell me to go to James O'Keefe for the past 2 days. And I'm tired of it, okay? I'm tired of it. No more. So what was the worst they could have done if they found out? They could have beat the shit out of me. Do you guys realize that when I say socialists, this is not everyone there was Antifa, but probably about probably like around 30% of the people there were Antifa that I could visibly identify as being Antifa. Now, if someone doesn't show up like they tend to, I can't visibly identify them as that. But like probably a good 30% at least of the people at that conference were Antifa. And so, yeah, I could have gotten the shit kicked out of me. They have no gumption about any of this. They are not opposed to violence, guys. They're not opposed to breaking the law. They're not opposed to violence. They're not opposed to doing whatever they need to do in order to get their Marxist revolution. And so, and by the way, like I had to be in character like at all times because there were some of them that were staying in my hotel. And so that was another thing, is I was like afraid of like being found out when I was just like even away from the conference. Rena Bear, thank you. Take care of your mental health, Dr. K. Doing what you're doing can be overwhelming and dangerous. Indeed, indeed. So leading up, so let me just walk you guys through what happened. And you know what? Listen, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. The very first thing I want to say, guys, is that if you do want to support the work I'm doing, and this is just going to be an informal chat, okay? I want to answer questions. I want to talk about the experience. If you want to support the work I'm doing, the very best way to do that is by heading over to my Substack, which hopefully will load eventually because my computer apparently is running slow right now, which is Carlyn, Carlyn.substack.com. Again, that is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. I'm just shutting down some stuff on my computer because I don't want to like have everything load slow. And so this is where I'm going to be publishing the majority of the content that I got from the socialism conference. Of course, we'll talk about it on the channel too. That's fine. But if you want to be the very first to know when I post something new about the conference, you can head over to the Substack and you'll get email notifications. Now, it is free to sign up for the Substack, but I'm going to be really honest, guys. It cost me about $3,000 to actually pull this off, and that's money that I'm paying out of my pocket. And so if you do want to support the work I'm doing and help me not only recoup the expenses from going to the socialism conference and creating the content that I'm going to be creating from it and telling you guys about it, but also supporting future efforts, because this might be the last of this specific conference that I can infiltrate, because I don't think I can pull this off again. But there are 8,000 other conferences out there that are going to give us similar types of information that are going to be important. So if you want to support my effort, please sign up as a paying supporter on my Substack, which is $8 for a month or $80 for the year. And that really does help me out. This is what funds this sort of thing. And so without your guys' support, then I really can't do this stuff. And I already paid out of pocket for this. Now, I'm very lucky that about half of the expenses have been recouped with the content that I've already put up. So I'm really thankful for all the new supporters that have signed up in the past day or so. It really has actually been it's been great, and I do appreciate it. Thank you. I do appreciate that as well. But if you do want to support the work I'm doing, becoming a supporter on the Substack is the very best way to do it. Another thing you can do is by heading over to my merch store, which is unwokeart.com. Pick up some of my socialism specific merch. I do have like this my outfit for the socialism conference was directly inspired by the Socialism Saturday image that I have. And so you can see that I've got the red hat. I was trying to look as close to this image as I could. So you can get that on a t-shirt if you want. You can also, of course, get the Be Bourgeois t-shirts, because socialists hate nothing more than the bourgeois. And so if we want to be, it's not enough to be like against socialism. You have to be actively anti-socialist, which means being pro-bourgeois, pro-capitalism, all that sort of stuff. And you can find that and a whole bunch of other cool merch in the Unwoke Art store if you are so inclined. But I want to start off here. So I've been planning on infiltrating, and when I say infiltrate, guys, I'm being a little colloquial with the word. I don't like when I say infiltrate, I mean I signed up and went to something. I signed up for something, I paid them money, and I went to it. And so I've been actually planning on going to this conference for about a year, because it was the socialism conference in 2022 last year that started Socialism Saturday, because I just found it randomly being live streamed on a Saturday. Hang on. So this is a question that is not worth. Okay, so I'm just going to be very blunt. For those of you who don't come to Socialism Saturday on a regular basis, you guys don't ask smart questions about the socialists. If you want to know why socialists do what they do, like really want to know why they do what they do and what they think and what they believe, then you need to come to my Socialism Saturday streams on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Because this, no offense, this is a dumb question. This is a question that anyone who has attended my Socialism Saturday streams knows the answer to, okay? So stop asking dumb questions, guys. If you're actually interested in this, then really be interested. Really ask questions. Really come and learn what these people believe. Because just saying stuff like this is not actually going to do anything to fix the problem, because they don't want to move. They want a revolution in this country, and they're very upfront about what they want. They do not want to go somewhere else. They want to make this country a Marxist society. That is their goal. That is what they've been working for a century. That is what they're doing. So continuing to say, why don't you just go live in a socialist country? That's a dumb question that is going to gain you nothing. Come and learn what they want, yo. I promise they'll tell you what they want. So about a year ago, we started watching Socialism Saturday because I randomly found this conference being live streamed on a Saturday, and we're gonna watch socialism on a Saturday. So we did it, but it's something that I really got really into because when we started watching socialism, we started discovering that if you want to understand the woke ideology, you've got to go back to the roots of the woke ideology, which is socialism. It is the hardcore far left Marxist activists that are driving the woke ideology in this country. It is the hardcore Marxist activists, the real activists, not the boogeymen that the conservative right has. I don't want to hear anyone in this chat mention Bill Gates. Okay? I don't want to hear a single person mention Bill Gates because I've been hearing a lot about that too. The socialists hate Bill Gates. The real socialists hate Bill Gates. They're not the same group. What the conservative right makes a big mistake in that they conflate the WEF and this kind of globalist conspiracy theory with far left radicals. They're not the same thing. They're not the same group. I hope that that's true, Chris. Javier is an ANCAP in Argentina. If you haven't been following along with that, that's really interesting. So the people who are actually driving the talking points of the Democratic Party, the people who have actually taken over the public schools, the people who have actually taken over the libraries, the people who are actually pulling the strings at basically every major institution in the country, they're not the WEF globalist conspiracy theory. They're not. They're the far left socialists that have gotten themselves in to positions of power in key institutions with the specific goal of facilitating their Marxist takeover and their Marxist revolution. We have to be very careful about what we're talking about because if you don't understand who your enemy is, then you will never defeat them. Okay? So we started watching these people about a year ago. And I kind of, admittedly, became a little bit obsessed with watching socialists. And I think some people on my channel, this is incorrect. Listen, if you guys want to be disruptive in my chat and share bullshit information, I will call you out on it. This is not correct. You are lying because you don't understand what you're talking about. Guys, the people who you see, like this person who has never been to a single Socialism Saturday, this person has never watched or engaged with the real socialism content that I've been covering for a year. People like this are a distraction. Now, if you want to come to Socialism Saturday and learn what you're talking about, I will teach you. But this is bullshit. This is not real. This is made up. And it's stuff like this that will keep the conservative right from winning forever. The conservative right have no I really want to make sure people understand this. The conservative right have no chance of beating back the Marxist revolution that the actual socialists are eliciting right now. They have no chance at it. It is gone. And it is because they do not understand what they're fighting and they refuse to listen. They refuse to listen and they refuse to learn. When we do Socialism Saturday, we have spent a year on this channel watching socialism, the real ones, every single week, at least once a week for a full fucking year. There are people here who knows what's up because a lot of them have been with me the whole time. Sadly, there are many more people on the conservative right that like to scream and cry and pretend they know what they're talking about, but they haven't taken the time to understand it. So my plea for people who are new to me that are watching right now because you want to learn, what I need you to do is to keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Because every time that you lie and you deflect and you about the globalists, You were never a customer in the first place. See, this is why conservatives will always lose. I know who's on my channel regularly. You have never been a customer of mine. You're probably not smart enough to understand my content, and now you're going to get blocked. Goodbye. This is why conservatives lose, guys. If you're new here and you have not been to at least 5 socialism Saturdays and sat through the whole thing, then I need you to keep your mouth shut and your ears open, and I need you to listen. And if you aren't willing to do that, like Brent here, Brent doesn't want to understand the enemy, so Brent's going to get blocked because Brent is useless. Goodbye, Brent. Then I'm just going to remove you from the situation. This is not an unmoderated chat. You will not be spreading your disinformation in my chat today, conservatives. I'm sorry. No. I went and did the thing that you guys refuse to do so that I can deliver accurate information. There will be no deflection. Rottweiler, Malthusians are a different can of worms. Even if they share the same ideals in some respects as our favorite Marxist Herbert Marcuse in his book One Dimensional Man, their goal is subverting capitalism. That's right. The WEF are Malthusians. We're talking about Marxists, Herbert Marcuse, Paulo Freire, all that. These are different groups of people. You cannot group them all together and learn anything. WEF and Schwab want corporate fascism. They want private business to become the government. The woke left want to abolish private business. That's correct, Nuru2. Thank you very much. Yes, I should remind everyone. Thank you, Sin. I have rules in my chat, guys. I do not have an unmoderated chat for new people here. Number 1, don't be a dick. Don't insult me. Don't insult other people in my chat. I can do whatever I want because this is my house. Your guests in my house. And if I ask you to stop doing something, I don't want to hear whining. I don't want to hear complaining. I want you to just stop doing it. All right? Bro, you keep whining. You're not going to be here very long, and then you're not going to understand. See, listen, guys, I've been live for like 27 minutes. And half of the time that I've been live, I'm dealing with conservatives whining and lying and spreading disinformation in my chat. Do you guys want to know why you lose? It's because you are completely incapable of closing your mouths and listening and learning what's going on. So, do people want to hear about my experience with the socialism conference? Or do you want to continue to complain that I pointed out correctly that the far left socialists that I was with all weekend are not the same as the WEF and Bill Gates and whatever globalist conspiracy theory the conservatives are ringing about today? No, it's not autumn on alt accounts. I know what autumn looks like. All right. So we've been watching Real Socialism for about a year. I knew about a year ago that I wanted to try to go to this conference. I knew, oh my fucking God. I knew about a year ago that I was going to do this. I've been slowly planning it ever since. But the thing of it is that we watch the real socialist activists on this channel. And the real socialist activists are a relatively small community. Okay? We're not talking about like hundreds of thousands of people. There were 400 people at this conference. There are tens of thousands of people doing this in the country, but they're not a large group of people, okay? That's not to say they can't be impactful. In fact, small groups of people can be very impactful when they're focused. But I have been publicly watching socialism from the same relative group of socialist activists for a year. And trust me when I tell you, they know who I am. I absolutely know that they know who I am. And the reason that I know is A, they've called me out publicly on several occasions for what I'm doing because they don't like that I'm showing people their content and they don't like that I'm teaching people about their content. But so when I decided to go to the socialism conference, and I write about it in this essay on my Substack. If you guys want to go read that, I'll pop the link in the chat. When I decided to go to it, I registered under a fake name because I knew damn well they knew who I was. And I had no intention, and I strongly mean this, guys. When I go into events, I don't disrupt them. It is not my intention to be disruptive. I don't ask smart ass questions. I don't do any of that. I sit there and I listen, and that's all I do. I don't try to undercut them. I don't try to do any of that. I go and I sit and I listen. So I knew that because they knew who I was, if I registered under my real name, they were gonna screw with me, right? And so I originally registered for the conference under a fake name, and that name was KB Kelty. KB are obviously my initials, and Kelty is my grandmother's name. It's my grandmother, my mother's side of the family. So it did actually come from somewhere. And by the way, my grandma Kelty was a badass. My grandma Kelty, like, she babysat me and my 18,000 cousins every single day after school. She'd sit at the kitchen tables, like, smoking Marlboros and drinking whiskey and doing her crossword puzzles as all these kids were, like, running around. And my grandma Kelty didn't take shit from anyone. And I have a lot of fun stories that I can talk about her, but, like, there's a specific reason that I chose the last name Kelty. It was an homage to my grandma who didn't take grief from anyone, trust me. And I wanted to honor her in that way. I just thought that'd be funny. So I registered under this fake name. Now, this was the problem, Kansas Mama, because I started thinking about it about a month before the event, and I was like, I wonder if I'm going to need a fake ID. And part of me wanted to go get a fake ID, but then I got lazy about it for some reason. I was, like, really dragging my feet on it. And so then I was like, let me just register under my real name and see what happens. Let me just see what happens. Because I was curious. I was like, if the socialists knew I was going to be there, would they just let me come and, like, listen to them? Would they be reasonable human beings? Now, I already had the fake name registration at this point. So but about a month before the conference, I was like, why don't I register in my real name and just see what happens? Let's just see what happens. Now, this was a game that I probably shouldn't have played, if I'm honest about it. This was me being a little too cocky. I wouldn't do it this way again. Okay? like I will never make this mistake again. Because what happened is, so August 27th was the last day to register online for the Socialist Conference. On August 29th, I got an email from the Socialism Conference saying, you are not welcome. And I'll show you the email because I put it in this thing. Here is the email that I got on August 29th. Hello, they preemptively banned me from the conference. Hello, Carlin. We have a zero tolerance policy for demeaning, discriminatory, or harassing behavior or speech at the conference. And given your apparent activities in public, we have assessed that you are not in compliance with our code of conduct. They banned me for a code of conduct violation before I even left the state of New Hampshire to go to their conference. 3 days before it even began. We have refunded your ticket. You are not welcome at the Socialism Conference and will not be permitted in any Socialism Conference spaces. Sincerely, the Socialism Organizing Team. Now, what I think happened is, I think after they turned off registration, they went through every single person who registered and searched their social media. I don't think they just did this to me. I think they screened that list to make sure that only friendlies were involved in the conference, right? And so I just happened to be on the undesirables list, so they canceled my registration. And thank you, socialists, for the $160 that you gave back to me. I really do appreciate it. But I still had the fake name registration. So I was still going. I was committed. I bought a plane ticket for this. I registered a hotel for this. So I think it was like the day after, 2 days after they sent me that email, I went to Boston, I got on a plane. So I'm in Boston. And I'm in the Delta Lounge in the Boston airport, and I was all dressed all socialist. I fully committed to this. And I actually ran into people going to the socialism conference at the airport in Boston. And the reason I knew they were going is because they looked the part. We're talking the shaved heads, the mullets, the like crazy Antifa look. I was like, they were wearing masks in the airport in Boston. I was like, there's no way that you're not going to that socialism conference in Chicago. There's no way. So I actually ran into people in Boston, but not in the Delta Club where it's a little bit more like upscale and I could have champagne and stuff like that. But I'm sitting in the Delta Club. I get an email from my hotel. Your reservation has been canceled. And I was like, what the what? And the reason I was pissed off about this is I had not one but two conversations with the Hyatt Hotel in which I expressly said to them, I was like, do not tell anyone I'm coming. Do not tell anyone I'm here. You are permitted to share zero information about me. Well, whatever meeting planner they worked with managed to get out of the Hyatt Hotel that I was registered at the Hyatt Hotel, and they canceled my reservation as I was literally flying to Chicago. But there are other hotels in Chicago. And so essentially what I did was I went 2 blocks down to the street to the Hilton hotels where I have status, where I knew that they wouldn't give out my information. And so I basically went and stayed at the Hilton, like 2 blocks away. So it didn't turn out to be that big of a deal, but I was just like, yo, you guys are so interested in keeping me out that you not only cancel my conference registration, you canceled my hotel. But at this point, I had been pretty cocky about it up until that point. And now I'm starting to get a little afraid because they canceled my hotel while I was on my way there. So I was like, these people know I'm coming. They know I'm coming. They're going to be looking for me. How am I going to get around this? Well, I have to give a big shout out to none other than Murphy's Pool. Murphy's Pool, are you in the chat right now? Jen says, now the Hyatt is being discriminatory. Isn't that illegal? Isn't it indeed? Isn't it? I'm never staying at a Hyatt again. I'll tell you that. So our friend Murphy's Pool, for those who don't know, Murphy's Pool is a friend of the channel. He's been around for a while. And yes, everyone hail Murphy's Pool in the chat because Murphy's Pool did me a solid. Because Murphy's Pool lives a couple hours outside of Chicago. And Murphy's Pool was, and I know that people in my community were concerned about me. And Murphy's Pool drove to Chicago to deliver me a goodie bag. And it was so nice because he brought me snacks. He brought me a bottle of wine and he brought me pepper spray. He wanted me to be safe, so he brought me pepper spray. I was like, this is the best gift ever. And, we sat and we had breakfast and we chatted for a little while. And then I said, Murphy's Pool, can you do me a favor and go pick up my badge for me at registration? Because I was actually really nervous about this. I was so freaked out about they're going to know I'm here. This is going to ruin everything. I'm not going to be able to get into this conference because they're going to recognize me at registration, because registration was the only time that I was really going to have to interact with the staff at all. Now, because I had registered under a non-binary name, I knew that anyone could go and pick up my registration. It didn't have to be me, right? And I was just hoping they weren't going to check for IDs or anything, which socialists tend to be a little low tech. So I didn't really think they were going to. So Murphy's Pool did me a solid. And he went to the conference and he picked up my badge and he brought it back to the hotel. And so, let's see. Where's my badge? Hang on. I'll show you guys. Just looking for the picture. So Murphy's Pool picked up the badge and he brought it back to me. And he even got the they them sticker put on it, which is funny because Murphy's Pool does not look like a they them. I'm not going to give away what he looks like in real life. He's very handsome and dapper, of course. But Murphy's Pool does not look like a they them. And so apparently on his way out, when he was wearing the badge, apparently someone stopped him and was like, "You're a they them?" And he was like, "Yes." And he just laughed. And the other thing too is, so when I registered under the fake name for the conference, I registered under Victor's name, or I used Victor's credit card to do it because I didn't want my name to be associated with it. And so Victor Borisenko was actually printed on the registration ticket. And so we came up with a whole story where Murphy's Pool went up and he's like, "My husband registered me for this and I just don't know what I'm doing." And so he pretended Victor was his husband. So I have to give a big shout out to Murphy's Pool because I really don't know that I would have been able to pull this off without him going and picking up my badge for me. And so that was the start of the conference. And so then a couple hours later, I had to go over to start listening to sessions. And I kind of just I waited until there were a whole bunch of people there. And I was trying to blend in. I was just trying to I was so scared. I cannot even tell you guys. I was so scared. I really was though. So the first session I went to, and is something I'm going to be covering on the Substack. I do not have this recorded because I was worried. The first couple sessions that I went to on the first day, I didn't bring the recording device because I was worried that they would be scanning people for recording devices, because there are things that can do that you can get really cheaply, which probably would have been really smart of them if they'd done that, but they didn't do that. But I didn't bring it with me because I didn't want to get caught, right? So I don't have recordings of the first day. I have recordings of everything else. And you guys want to see? That's what I used to record. It's a little thinger that you stick in your pocket. And you just turn a button on and it records everything. And so the first session I went to at the Socialist Conference was called Kids as Comrades. I'm going to say that again. Kids as Comrades. And I have all their materials. I have copious amounts of notes from it, and they actually have a whole Google Drive of materials that I've got downloaded and all that stuff. So you guys are going to be able to see their materials. But let me tell you what this session was about. The socialists, at every single socialist event, they want to try to provide childcare. And childcare for because and it's honestly actually a really smart thing to do, and there's a lot that conservatives and libertarians could learn from what the socialists are doing. If I'm honest about it, if the conservatives were smart, they would do this. If the libertarians were smart, they would do this. What the socialists are planning to do is they have childcare at every event, and they specifically design the childcare to groom. Exactly. They grooming little socialists. They want to make sure that their kids grow up to be the next generation of socialist activists. And so what they do every time they have a meeting, they would well, there's always next year, Dan, okay? There's always next year. They're specifically designing meeting childcare to have activities that reinforce socialist ideals and that teach children how to be collectivists. And they're doing this for all their democratic socialist meetings. They had this childcare at the Socialism Conference. I could have volunteered to go participate in the childcare at the Socialist Conference. So this is something they're very aware of, is how they're grooming their children to be the next generation of socialist activists. So I went to that presentation. Let's see. I have a whole notebook here of notes, which, by the way, if you're ever going to go to a socialist conference, there were not many people. I purposefully did not bring my computer because I didn't want my computer to accidentally give away who I was and what I was doing. And I feel like it's just too easy for someone to like look over your shoulder and to like see what's on your computer screen and stuff like that. So I didn't take notes on a computer. I took notes in this notebook. The vast majority of people at the socialist conference were taking notes in a notebook just like this. So I have massive amounts of notes. So I went to that Kids as Comrades thing. I got a whole bunch of notes. My handwriting sucks, Myriad. It sucks. So how socialists? Oh, and then after that, there was a session called "Resisting the Trad Wife Turn." So the socialists had a whole series of presentations about fighting the far right. It was a whole conference track. Just they had a session all about Florida. You guys are going to hear a lot of clips from that session about Florida. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They had a lot of sessions about the pro-life movement. They had a lot of sessions about like the far right neo-Nazis, like whatever. But they're like that was a specific part of the conference is how do we fight back against the fascists? And they had a whole track specifically dedicated to that. So that was kind of like day one for me. The other thing I did on day one, which is important, there was a massive bookstore. A massive bookstore. Now, the conference was sponsored by Haymarket Books, which is a socialist book publisher. But I want people to think bigger picture than that because for Socialism Saturday, the main place that we get our Socialism Saturday presentations are from socialist book publishers and socialist bookstores. One thing that the socialists have done, which is so smart, is they have created a massive network of content creators. All these people do is write books. They write books. They write periodicals. They write flyers. They publish content. But they had a massive bookstore on site. This bookstore is bigger than some real bookstores that I've been in real life that are like in a mall or something like that. This bookstore was bigger than some independent bookstores. And in that bookstore, they had every type of socialist material that you could want. They had an entire table dedicated to children's books. They had a whole table dedicated to children. And I've got pictures of all of this. I'm going to be showing you guys pictures on the Substack. I have receipts of everything that I'm telling you. I'm just not showing it to you yet because I haven't had a chance to do it. A whole table of children's books. They had a whole table of books for socialist teachers and educators. They had a giant display of critical pedagogy books that are specifically designed to train teachers how to integrate critical theory, which is socialism, Marxism. I mean, this was one of the biggest tables in the entire bookstore, was this massive display of critical theory books. Yes, these are only socialist books because the thing is that there is not any mainstream stuff that you see around queer theory, critical theory, stuff like that. It's coming from the socialist book publishers. The socialist book publishers do not integrate mainstream books into what they're doing. Instead, what they do is they publish books in such a quantity that their books get integrated into the mainstream and people don't know what they're watching. And I'm sorry, PragerU is child's play compared to what the socialists are doing. PragerU is not even in the same fucking league as the type of content and the volume of content that the socialists are creating. Not in the same lead at all, in any way. So yeah, so they had a whole table. They had a table of board games. They had a table of board games. Really think about that. Do conservatives have a whole table of board games that teaches people how to be conservatives? No. The socialists had a whole table of effing board games to teach people how to be socialists. They had a whole table of how do we explicitly fight back against the far right. It was overwhelming the amount of content that they had, guys, honestly. Rottweiler, thank you. And of all the books that can be brought to the classroom by teachers, circumventing school boards, so how the book banning is going to. So let's talk about this. Because they talked about the book banning a lot. Let me tell you. So the book banning, listen, conservatives. The book banning accomplishes nothing. The only thing that the book banning does is it gives the left a talking point to use against you. Because every single time you guys get one book out of a library or one book out of a classroom and you pat yourselves on the back and you feel really great about it, the socialists replace it with 5 more books. They're producing books in a quantity that you cannot keep up with. I promise you. And every single time you get one, they're going to replace it with 5 more. You get those 5, they're going to replace each of those with 5 more. That is the level of production that these people are doing on content. It is overwhelming, and you will never be able to keep up with it. And we'll go back to that in a second. But Laura asked, what kind of books and goodies did I get? I did get some books and goodies. I only bought one book because I was like, I don't want to give these people my money. But I had to buy one, and I'll show you what I got. And I got a couple t-shirts too. And then we're going to come back to the book banning stuff. I got this. Queer. A graphic history. These people produced a whole fucking illustrated novel about queer theory. I had to have it. I had to. And there were so many other books I wanted to buy, but like I'm not like I can buy them on like Amazon or I'd much rather give Amazon my money than these people, to be honest. So I'll do that. But like let me show you. I did get some t-shirts that I want to mock. I want to just like wear these just to needle Haymarket Books. So I got a Haymarket Books t-shirt. Thank you, Haymarket Books, for your service. I'm going to wear that on Socialism Saturday. And then look at this t-shirt that they were selling. It says abolish everything. I was like, I have to have it. I have to. I also. Here's my badge. I'm going to frame that at some point. So there were all sorts of like socialist like periodical publishers. And so I picked up this. I had to pay for a $6 subscription to this to get this periodical. But like, let me show you the reason I got this. For everyone who doubts when I say that when they say whiteness, they mean capitalism, they literally have a poster that says racism cannot be separated from capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism, guys. I got the socialist poster just to make sure. I'm going to hang this on my wall. So those are my goodies. Let me. Oh, shit. I just knocked down my my tower of like. Okay, hang on. Banning Autumn's sub accounts. Let me see. I had a couple super chats, I think. Let me see. I just want to make sure I got all of them. Yasmin says conservatives need to copy and paste. That's exactly right, Yasmin. Conservatives, the smartest thing they'd ever do would be to listen to what the socialists are doing and copy and paste. And then the other Jenny says, remember when the Barbie movie came out and Carlin said leftists are more creative than conservatives? Here's the proof. Oh yeah. And I'm going to show you pictures of all of this again, guys. But I want to go back to the Florida thing. There was an entire session about what's going on in Florida and how they fight back against it. And let me tell you what they're doing. And I'm working on putting this together. This was talked about in at least 3 different sessions that I attended. Do you guys want to know how the socialists are going to get around your anti-CRT laws, your anti-woke laws? Does anyone want to take a guess? How do you think the socialists are going to get around your anti-CRT laws in school? By the way, and this should terrify everyone, I think that roughly half, 50%, I don't think this is a high estimate, I think that roughly half of the people at the conference were teachers. The reason that I know that half of the people at the conference were at the socialism conference were teachers is because they had a whole track of sessions about education in the public schools. And those were the best attended sessions of the entire conference. There were librarians there too, of course, but the sessions about education were packed. And the panelists would ask, raise your hand if you're a teacher. Every hand in the room shoots up. About half of the people there were teachers. That's real, okay? Now let me tell you how they're going to get around your anti-CRT laws. They call it smuggler pedagogy. Another name for it is fugitive pedagogy. They are actively planning to smuggle their socialist ideas into the curriculum, either by zooming in teachers from out of state. This is something that teachers in Florida are specifically doing, by the way. Teachers in Florida are shutting the door to their classroom. They're opening up Zoom, and they are zooming in teachers from out of state to teach the concepts that they can't teach. They're calling it smuggler pedagogy or fugitive pedagogy. I think you guys can understand why they're doing that. I have clips from like 3 different sessions that they're talking about this. The anti-CRT law, I've been telling you guys for years that ain't no school board seat's going to change this. No, there's nothing that you can do on the school board that's going to change this. Ain't no conservative teacher college going to change this. Because no matter what you do, when the classroom door closes, the teacher is responsible for what is going on. If the teacher wants to close the classroom door and then zoom in an out-of-state teacher to teach the Marxist concepts that they can't teach, they're going to do it. Well, that's funny because I, not Matt Walsh stole this from me 2 years ago. I called for this. 2 years ago. Cameras in classrooms was my idea. Cameras in classrooms was originally tweeted by me, went viral on Twitter, got 2 million views before Matt Walsh stole it. And then Matt Walsh fucked it up entirely and did nothing with it after that. But this is what needs to happen. There need to be cameras in classrooms. That is the only thing that can possibly stop them from what they're doing, guys. The only thing. Let me do a couple other super chats. Hang on. Breaking news. Proud Boys leader sentenced to 22 years in prison over his role in January 6th. Well, he was sentenced to 22 years in prison for being Enrique Tarrio. I'm not sure I feel bad for Enrique Tarrio, if I'm honest about it. Enrique Tarrio's like not a good person. He's not a good person. That guy is shady, man. But he probably doesn't deserve to go to prison for 22 years. But that's and for January 6th, that's stupid. But Enrique Tarrio is not a good person. Let's see. I looked at that one already. Rottweiler. Leftists do generate more ideas for their ground game. Cons still parrot old talking points, thinking they're applicable. Regardless of time, culture changes over time. That's why they're ineffective. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So yeah, so they're going to get around the anti-CRT bans, and it's not even going to be a contest. I agree, Philip. The only solution to any of this is to defund public schools. That's the only solution. If you have your kids in public schools, get them out of public schools. This is not a game, guys. These people are actively coming for your kids, and they're going to use the schools to do it. So that's something we're going to be talking about in the coming days, because I'm putting together a package of clips that illustrates what this smuggler pedagogy is, what fugitive pedagogy is. And by the way, who knows who Mark Lamont Hill is? Mark Lamont Hill, anyone? If they catch them, they'll just do it again, and they'll do it again. Conservatives, Jesus Christ, conservatives. You have got to stop believing that the law is going to protect you. I don't know how to say this any other way, but then to get really fucking stern about it. Because for some reason, conservatives are so fucking hard-headed that they can't hear anything. You have got to stop expecting the law and the government to protect you and save you from this problem, because it is not going to. Every single new law you pass, they are going to find a way to get around. Every single new book ban that you try to get enforced, they're going to publish 17 more books to replace the one book that you got banned. Every single thing you try to do through the official systems as they currently stand, they will beat you, and it won't even be close. So let's talk about Mark Lamont Hill. Mark Lamont Hill presented a session. Mark Lamont Hill did a panel with Bettina Love. Bettina Love is a crazy person who is a teacher educator at Columbia University. Thank you, Go Short, for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Honey, no. You can sue if you want, but it's not going to change anything. This is not going to fix anything. I don't know why you guys don't listen. I just don't get it. I really don't. So yeah, Mark Lamont Hill was presenting. I got Mark Lamont Hill's whole presentation recorded. Mark Lamont Hill. Oh, Go Short says the super chat was a tribute to Milton Friedman. He said to abolish the public school system 50 or 60 years ago. I appreciate that. Oh, Stephen. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Oh, hang on to your hat, Stephen. Mark Lamont Hill did a whole rant about how the socialists need to use the public schools to turn children against the police. It was called abolitionist education, and abolition, police abolition, prison abolition. That's like a really big issue for the socialists, right? And I'm going to be honest, I'm actually kind of on their team on this one. I'm on their team. I know that pisses people off, but I hate the police. I think the police are an organized gang. I don't think they can be reformed. But I'm also not in favor of political indoctrination in the public schools. And so while I'm actually on team abolition, I do not think it's correct to use the public schools to turn children against the police. And that is exactly what Mark Lamont Hill talked about doing. Mark Lamont Hill also apparently owns a socialist bookstore. Did anyone know that? Oh, apparently he does. So that was fun. Do you guys know who was there? Hang on. I have to show you this. Hang on. I have to show you this. You guys want to know who was at the socialism conference? I ran into him. I sat in on 2 presentations with him. Vincini from The Princess Bride is a socialist, and he was at the conference, and he was just bumming around. He was wearing a mask and everything. I have pictures. And he was going to the different sessions and just like hanging out. I swear to God. So he was actually, yes, inconceivable. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I have pictures of him. I do. I was sitting in on a session and I looked up. He was sitting in the row in front of me And he's like wearing this N95 mask, and I'm like, oh no, that's not Wallace Shawn. That's not no. And it was. I saw his name tag just to make sure. But do you know what one of the sessions I saw him in? Wallace Shawn was front row center for our favorite topic, abolish the family. For those of you who have followed Socialism Saturday, hang on. We'll take the super chat first. Andrew, put it this way, Carlin. They don't trust the government to protect them from crime. Why trust the government to educate children? Well, I agree with that, Andrew. I do. So for those of you who do not follow Socialism Saturday, and again, I strongly encourage you guys, if you are interested in this, we do this every single week on Saturdays at 6 p.m. Come to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is how I trained to go to this conference. I didn't know how to speak socialist a year ago. I had to learn this stuff. But abolish the family is a key socialist like tenet. They want to abolish the biological nuclear family. That's real. They want to get rid of it. And there were 2 sessions about this that were led by our favorite abolish the family activist, Sophie Lewis. Sophie was there. And Wallace Shawn, the guy from The Princess Bride that said inconceivable, was sitting front row center for one of the abolish the family presentations. He sat there. I kept an eye on him. He was like nodding along. He was agreeing with it. I swear to God. But the thing about Sophie is, Sophie also knows who I am. And I think Sophie made me. I really do. And I'm going to give you guys a really interesting tidbit about one of the things that was said in one of those sessions. You guys are going to be floored. I've got a clip of this that's going to be coming out. So Sophie, I think, made me because Sophie was staring at me during her session. And I took pictures of Sophie, and I'm going to put them on Twitter later, and I'm going to be like, "Hi, Sophie. I'm sad we didn't get a chance to talk. I almost bought Sophie's book to ask her for an autograph, but I couldn't do it because I didn't want to blow my cover. But I really wanted to. But like, I'm pretty sure she made me because there was like in the second session, she was staring at me, and I maybe had like I was like, oh shit, she knows I'm here. She knows I'm here. Because I've been taunting Sophie on Twitter for a while. But the second session that Sophie did was called The Politics of Childhood. Let me tell you what happened in this session. When I publish my story and the clips from this session, this is going to go massively, massively viral. You guys think the American Library Association thing, which if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it in a second. You guys think the American Library Association thing is going to be the biggest viral thing I share from this? It's big. Trust me, the minute that I got the American Library Association clip, I was like, there's nothing else I need. I'm done. If I get nothing else from this conference, I'm good. I'm pretty sure that what I got in this abolish the family session is going to go more viral than the American Library Association. Let me tell you why. It came in the Q&A portion. So at socialist conferences, they do it a little bit differently. There's a panel of people. They're about each session at the socialism conference is about 90 minutes long. And for the first 45 minutes, there's a panel of people where they do the presentation, right? They read a paper or whatever. The second half of the presentation is to hear from the audience. And it's not like a Q&A. They're not necessarily going up and asking the panelists questions. Anyone in the audience can come up to the microphone and make a statement for 2 to 3 minutes. They can talk about whatever they want. They can share what they're doing. They can share their perspective. It's like they're trying to integrate the panelists and the audience into having a more robust discussion. And it's actually kind of a nice way to do it. I'm going to be honest. I kind of came around to it towards the end. I was like, you know what? This actually makes sense. You learn much more. You end up hearing from more people. You hear different perspectives and stuff like that. That was actually how I got so let me just talk about this for a second. So For those who don't know, the biggest clip that I got, well, I won't say biggest, the most high profile clip that I got at this conference, I released yesterday. It was from the Marxist president of the American Library Association, and it was her explicitly saying that libraries and public schools need to be sites of socialist organizing. Let me pop the link in the chat if you haven't not seen it yet. Here you go, Rumble. So, how I got this clip, Emily was not presenting at this conference. She was originally supposed to present at this conference, but then there was a big media firestorm about it, and they quietly canceled her presentation. I wasn't even sure that Emily was going to be at the conference. When I got this clip, I was sitting in on a session about education. And there were two people presenting, a black guy and an Asian guy. You're going to hear a lot of clips from them in the coming days. But Emily was sitting in the audience. Emily, the only thing that Emily said was during the Q&A portion or the discussion portion, when she, along with every other audience member, went up to the microphone and got to say what she wanted to say. And that's when that happened. It was a complete and total accident that I got this clip. And I'll tell you what, I was literally sitting right next to the microphone, but I wasn't really paying attention to who was standing at it. And like when Emily started speaking, I recognized her voice immediately. And I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then when she said that libraries need to be a site of socialist organizing, I got to tell you guys, it was everything in my power to do not to react. Because like in my head, I'm going, oh. And I'm like, this was the first session that I actually used my recording device on, and I wasn't sure it was going to work. And in my head, I'm like, please record, please be recording, please work, please God, let this recording work. I will never ask for anything again. And I was having a whole conversation with God all the way back to my hotel room to check the recording. I was like, because I was like, no one is ever going to believe me that I literally heard the head of the American Library Association say that libraries must be a site of socialist organizing. I was praying. I like basically ran back to my hotel room, and I checked it, and I was like, "Oh my God, thank God!" So that was how I got that clip. Was during the discussion Q&A portion. Now, let's go back to the politics of childhood. So Sophie, do you guys remember? Hang on, I'll show you something else. Do you guys remember? It was not too long ago. Let's see. Here it is. So about a month ago, not even a month ago, August 10th, we watched a presentation from this person. This is a trans professor at Johns Hopkins University that encouraged college students to do it yourself hormones. So we've seen this person before. This person, whose name is, what is this person's name? I forget. Jules Gill Peterson. Jules Gill Peterson was presenting the Politics of Childhood session with Sophie Lewis. Now, do you want to know how I know that Abolish the Family is directly linked to queer Marxism? Because Jules Gill Peterson is a queer Marxist, and Sophie Lewis, who was her co-presenter, is an Abolish the Family activist who has literally written 2 books about abolishing the biological family. So let me tell you where Sophie might get in trouble. I'm debating on how I'm going to handle this. The discussion portion opens in this Politics of Childhood session. The very first person at the microphone is dressed. I'm not making this up. I have a picture. Dressed like a full Japanese schoolgirl. I thought it was a woman. No. Dressed like a full-on Japanese schoolgirl. Goes up to the microphone. Very masculine voice. And I was like, oh. I was like, oh, you're an autogynephiliac. Okay, I understand. Because a lot of well, not a lot. There are. Have you tried searching for me on Rumble? Go ahead, give it a try. I always hate when conservatives ask, are you on Rumble yet? When they haven't even bothered to look for me on Rumble. So there is a portion of trans women, so-called trans women, that they aren't trans. They're autogynephiliacs. This is the idea that you are a man who is turned on by having the body of a woman, dressing like a woman, that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when I heard when I saw this person dressed like a full Japanese schoolgirl, voice of a man, I was like, "Oh, honey, you're an autogynephiliac. Okay, I got it. I got it." No judgment. We like what we like. The question this person asked was, how are we going to get rid of age of consent laws because children can consent too? Now that's one person. You can't hold people responsible for what someone in the audience says, right? But I was like, "Oh, it's a little bit odd that you're asking about age of consent laws when you're obviously an autogynephiliac, like there's some sort of weird sexual perversion going on and you're asking about age of consent laws." Oh. Oh, that's not so good. But that's not even the worst one. Couple people later, this is a woman. A woman got up and asked this. I swear to God. A woman probably in her 40s got up to the microphone and she said, so I need to preface this. Socialists don't believe that children are property of their parents. Okay? Socialists believe that children are like little adults, that they're adults in little bodies. And they can make all their decisions for themselves and they know what they want, et cetera, et cetera. So this woman comes up to the microphone and she says, and I have it recorded, how do we protect child sex workers? And then she said, I wouldn't even ask this question if this was being live streamed. She literally said that. She goes, how do we protect child sex workers? Because sometimes children need to be child sex workers because maybe the family needs to pay for food. So how do we put protections in place for child sex workers? And Sophie knew she was being trapped. I don't think that Sophie Lewis is a groomer or a pedophile. I really don't. And I want to make that very clear. I don't think she is. But Sophie hemmed and hawed around this question. And finally, she landed on children have sexualities too. And I don't think it came across as though she intended. But that's what happened. And I have it all recorded. That one threw me for a loop. I'll tell you what, the fact that I had to sit there and listen to that and not react, that one threw me a little bit for a loop. I was a little bit like, okay, this was early in the morning. This was like a 10 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't even really had my coffee yet. And so I've got that recorded. I've got a whole bunch of abolish the family stuff recorded. Like abolish, they talked a lot about it. They talked a lot about how you can't get rid of capitalism until you abolish the family. And so that's why they focus so strongly on abolish the family, because they want to get rid of capitalism, right? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, I went back to my hotel. That was that the last day? That was the last day. I went back to my hotel at the end of that day. I ordered a really nice steak dinner. I opened a bottle of wine and I was like, what the hell did I just put myself through? Yes, it was a very good thing that I was wearing a mask. So there's so much more that happened, guys, and I can't possibly recount everything right now, but I want to start taking your questions. What questions do you guys have? And I'm going to be I'm going to be doing so many articles. Again, guys, if you want to follow along, hang on. If you want to follow along with my reporting on this, head over to my Substack, which is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Make sure you sign up, at least subscribe for free. I'm going to be dripping out the content and the articles, basically as quickly as I can get them done, because there's a lot of content that I have to shift through, to be honest. And there's so many stories to tell. I mean, there's so many stories to tell from this conference. So many. But you can subscribe to the Substack. I'm gonna break it all down. I'm gonna tell you guys what's going on. I'm gonna share things, and I'm really trying to do this, guys, in an ethical way. I'm not pulling things out of context. I don't want to do gotcha moments. I want to share what these people actually think, so that you can process what's really going on. I'm not doing clickbait bullshit. This is real. I'm not taking people out of context. I'm showing you what they said, and so you can decide for yourself what you're comfortable with. But this is all going to get reported on my Substack, and so make sure you sign up there if you want to keep in touch. A New Wrinkle on the Brain podcast asks, how can we find local socialism events? Okay, so here's the thing, guys. I'm going to teach you guys how to infiltrate these conferences, because it's getting too dangerous for me to do it. Okay, I can never go back to this conference again. I can never do this again. And I know that. This is like, I shot my shot, I took my shot, and it paid off. I have a lot of stuff to show you, but I can never do this again. I will get my ass beat. And so what I need to do is I need to train other people to do this. Do not just show up at a socialist event when you have done no prep work. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not something that you can just show up and do. If you have not been watching Socialism Saturday, start watching Socialism Saturday. Go into the archives. I've got a full year worth of episodes. Go into the archives, start watching Socialism Saturday. If you can't do it live with us on Saturdays, do the replay, whatever it is, because in order to successfully infiltrate a socialist event, you need to understand their language, and you need to train yourself to sit through their presentations without reacting, and you need to learn what they believe, because there are a lot of misperceptions, because conservative influencers have lied to you. There are a lot of misperceptions about what these people think and what they believe. And in order to successfully infiltrate event and not stick out like a sore thumb, you need to understand who they are and what they really believe. Not the bullshit, not the clickbait, the real deal. And you need to learn how to speak their language, and you need to learn about their culture. One of the reasons I was able to successfully infiltrate this event is not only that I know how to speak like them, but that I know how to dress like them. I know how to look like them. I know how to walk like them. I know how to talk like them. I know how they interact in their spaces. It's not the same as conservative spaces. You can't just show up and you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. Okay. So I'm going to break down how to do this. And before I tell you how to find socialism events, I'm going to teach you how to do it. Okay. But for right now, come to Socialism Saturday and start training. Socialism Saturday was my training ground. I couldn't have sat through 3 days of socialism presentations had I not watched it at least once a week for a full year. You learn how to sit your butt down, listen to the boring parts. You learn how to pick out the things that are important. You learn what they actually believe. You learn what the language means, because socialists don't speak English. Socialists speak in code, okay? It sounds like English, but it's not English. So we can talk about that, but I want to make it very clear. I don't want anyone just showing up at a socialist event where you are not prepared for it. Please don't do that. You will get your ass beat. You will get in trouble. They will kick you out. They will be able to sniff you out a mile and a half away. You have to prepare for this if you're seriously going to do it. Let me see. Acoustic theory question: how will you preserve the recordings against a concerted effort to attack them as fake or go against? Well, they're not fake. They're not fake. I mean, people can say whatever they want. Like, guys, bro, the recordings are on Twitter. The recording of the ALA president on Twitter has over 200,000 views. It's already been reported on the news. It was talked about for half an hour this morning on the biggest talk radio station in Washington, D.C. It's going to be on the news tonight. Like, the recordings are preserved. You don't need to worry about that. There is nothing that they can do. Stop, guys. This is the thing. This is one of the things that conservatives do that is so unnecessary. And I appreciate the super chat, but why are you assuming that it's going to fail? Why are you putting obstacles in your own way? Why are you assuming it's going to be censored? Stop assuming the worst, guys. You only sabotage yourselves. I just got here, but this feels way big. Yo, like, I gotta tell you, like, it's honestly starting to hit me how big what I did was, and it didn't feel big at the time, but it's starting to hit me, and I'm kind of a little overwhelmed by it, and I'm having some emotions about it. I might cry a little bit. This might conceivably be one of the most important things I do. I mean, I don't know, but, like, it feels really big right now, and it feels, like, really important, and, I mean, on, like, a personal level, it feels like to me, like, I've been doing journalism for 2.5 years. I was never trained to be a journalist. I learned how to do it on the fly. I've been uncovering this shit for 2.5 years. I've been going into their meetings for 2.5 years. I've been exposing this stuff. I've gotten millions of views on my work. My work's been covered on Fox News. They never give me credit for it. My work's been covered on the Daily Wire. They never give me credit for it. They never talk about where it comes from or who does it. But this time feels different, and it feels like this is the time where people are actually starting to see that I'm actually have been doing this shit, and I'm actually getting recognition for it. And I know that seems like it's like a personal thing, like, but it feels like people actually finally see me as a journalist when I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and there's something very self-validating about that. And who else was going to do this? I was the only one that did it. I'm the only one that went to the 3-day socialist event and made it all the way through and lived to tell the tale, right? I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. I don't want to get too much of a big head about it, but, like, I think I did something really big and important and frankly scary and something that I put myself in actual danger for that I don't think I allowed myself to consider at the time. And I just hope it makes a difference. I hope people listen. Here's what I hope comes from this. I hope people listen because what I've learned in the last year doing Socialism Saturday is that, like, this is where all of it is coming from. It's this community. This is where every destabilizing force in our society is coming from. And I feel like I've been screaming and pounding my fists on the wall and, like, saying, like, will you assholes listen to this? And it's like fallen on deaf ears, like, over and over and over and over and over again. And, like, I feel like with the ALA thing, like, people are actually starting to listen. And so I hope more people listen, you know? Clay, thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. Let me know if there's a chat or something you want me to show on the screen. Let's see. Did I have any interesting conversations with attendees? No, I basically just tried to keep a low profile, to be honest. I did talk to some of their sponsors, but, like, I didn't want to be outed. So I kind of just kept to myself. Well, I want people to go to conferences and I want more people to do this, but I'm just begging you guys, please do not do it unless you prepared for it. I do not want anyone to get the shit kicked out of them because they're copycatting something I did and you haven't prepared for it. Because remember, I prepared for this for a full year. I did massive amounts of homework to be able to prepare for this. So I want to teach you guys how to do it, and I'm happy to help people do it. Did they define the bourgeois family is the biological nuclear family? Let's see. I'm just scrolling through the chat. I would not start attending their events until you've watched Socialism Saturday and you know how to speak their language. I would not start doing that. Guys, listen, socialists do not speak normal English. Socialists speak in code. So if you just start going to their events and you don't have the context for it and you don't know how to speak their language, you're not going to understand what you're hearing. And it's going to be more difficult for you. I know people don't like preparing, but you've got to listen to Socialism Saturday to learn the language. That's like the best answer I have. Let's see. Yay, Beth is not dead today. I'm thrilled to hear that, Beth. Thank you for the super chat. They are very successful. I don't understand why, because they work their asses off. They work their asses off. They're winning because they publish more content than you. They're winning because they get into positions that you don't get into. They're winning because they have a concerted effort to implement their laws and policies. They're winning because they took over the colleges. They're winning because they took over the schools of education. They're winning because they are constantly creating content. They're constantly doing classes. They set up their own publishers. They set up their own bookstores. And they're doing all of this while conservatives are making memes on Twitter. You are not going to defeat these people with memes. That's why they're winning, because conservatives are dicking around with memes. Libertarians have their heads shoved so far up their asses, it's ridiculous. And all the time, the real socialists are pumping out content, pumping out books, pumping out curriculum, pumping out teacher guides, pumping out children's books, creating children's childcare, like planning to get around state laws by smuggling pedagogy, fugitive pedagogy. They're planning every single day of their lives. That's why they're winning. Let's see. I'm just going through the chat, guys, making sure I'm getting the questions. How did people not gasp at age of consent or child labor? Socialists do not believe that children are the property of their parents. They want to they want to liberate children from their parents. They actually had a book about adult supremacy in the bookstore. We watched a presentation on the book not too long ago on Socialism Saturday. Actually, they had the same book in the bookstore, and so they believe that children are little adults that can make their own decisions. They're like Scientologists in that regard. Yeah, the playlist for Socialism Saturday doesn't have all the Socialism Saturdays. I need to update that shit, but just search for Socialism Saturday on the channel and you'll be able to find some stuff. Let's see. I did not knit the hat. I bought the hat on Amazon. I kind of want to give away the hat in a contest, but I bought the hat on Amazon. Anyone can buy this hat. I did not knit it. Tayton, it hurts because it was an attack on freedom. Yeah. Thank you, Tayton. I don't know that I'm the second coming of Andrew Breitbart, but I appreciate that. And it's very humbling that you said that. Thank you. Jen says, Dr. K, we are proud of you. Thank you, Jen. Thank you for being a member of the channel. I appreciate it. I'm about to cry in a second. I'm just trying to get through the chat before I do. LK says, for the pumpkin beer to help you celebrate your success, love your work. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, LK. I appreciate that. Incognito says, career defining moment. Proud of you. Thank you. Hang on, guys. I'm just getting through the chat. Carlin, what do you think of the Encyclopedia of Woke Terms on James Lindsay's website? I adore James Lindsay and his work. Sadly, I don't get to consume it as much because like I can't be influenced by him. I have to come up with my own thoughts about it. But I think that James Lindsay is amazing. And the amount of work that he produces is amazing. And I say that as a preface because I'm not actually a fan of his dictionary or his encyclopedia because I think it's too academic. And there's a difference between the academic material and how they talk in real life. So my work with this stuff is I look at their real life training. I look at their real life presentations. I show you what they're actually saying in their training sessions, their classes, stuff like that. That is very different from what James Lindsay is doing. Now, it might kind of end out in the same place in that James Lindsay is presenting something that is roughly comparable to like what I'm presenting, but the way he's presenting it misses the point of what's going on because it's so grounded in academia that it's just it doesn't look the same when it's in real life. And I don't have a better way to explain that right now other than to say there's a difference between an academic paper and how people talk in real life. The meanings might be the same, but it's kind of like they're still going like this. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think it's a good place to start, but what he's doing in that encyclopedia is not going to translate into real life conversations. And that is something I'm working on, by the way. I've got an article started about like a socialist word thing that I want to teach you guys how they talk in real life. Because you need to understand that. You need to understand how they talk in real life. Emily, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. I have actually thought about starting a publishing company. It is on the list of 87 things I have to do. That is very far down on the list because there's at least 87 things I need to do before I get to it, but I have thought about it. They think that Bill Gates is bullshit and all of the WEF stuff is a conservative conspiracy theory. They don't care about it. They don't care about it at all. These are two completely different groups. The conservatives care far more about the WEF than the socialists do. I promise you that. They hate Bill Gates. No, this is not true. Don't fucking lie in my chat. This is not true. Knowing the dates and the significant events is not even relevant most of the time to what they're doing. So no, don't lie to people because you give them ideas and then they act based on those ideas and they could get their ass beat based on the wrong information that you told them. No. No, it does not. It does not overlap at all. It does not overlap at all. The conservatives are way more obsessed with the WEF than the socialists are. They are not the same group. And I have to say that in a stern voice because I can't get through to conservatives. I've repeated this like 15 ways from Sunday because they don't fucking listen. Sorry, I wish it was more. Don't, Kino, come on. Thank you. I appreciate it. I can't because it's not hand knit. So I mean I probably could if I wanted to, but I'm not inclined to be honest. Rottweiler, did they mention Hannah Dreier and her queer futility paper? That's something we should pay attention to I don't recall or queer futurity. I don't recall that. That doesn't mean it wasn't mentioned, but I don't recall it off the top of my head. What is the next major issue that the schools? Their attention is focused almost entirely on the schools, especially because the right has made the schools such a big focal point, but they are not intimidated by the book bans at all, guys. If the right continues to focus all of their energy and attention on books, they are going to get their asses kicked because the socialists are finding ways to influence the curriculum and the policies that are not related to the books. And by the way, with the books, they've got you beat too, because I know we talked about this earlier. If you get one book out of school, they're going to replace it with 5 more. But the main tactics that they're working on in the schools have nothing to do with the books because they are hyper aware that the conservatives are focused almost entirely on the books and on nothing else. So you've got to start focusing on things that matter in the schools. We're going to do that with my school's Exposed program. That's getting, we're going to bring that. I shouldn't say back. It never went anywhere. But we're going to bring that back. Because conservatives are focused on completely the wrong thing in the schools. The schools are the central issue. I have clips of the socialists saying the schools are the central issues, but not in the way that the right thinks that they are. Why would they? Why would they? Do you understand that we're like a fly to them? We're like a mosquito. We're not something they think about. We're not something that has any relevance at all to what they're doing. They don't view us as something that is intimidating. They don't view us as something that's going to spoil their plans. They are full steam ahead every single day. Would you infiltrate a community of ants? Why? You just step on it if you want to. They're not infiltrating nothing. They've got bigger fish to fry. The right still thinks of these people as the strung out hippies, not a highly motivated force of people who believe that the end justifies the mean. That's exactly right. Now, I'll say this. There were 2 different types of people who were at the socialism conference. There were the hippies. The anti-war hippies, they were a little bit older. They probably became socialists in the 60s and the 70s. And they were fine. I have no beef with the anti-war hippies, right? They were like Wallace Shawn, I'm pretty sure was there because he's an anti-war hippie, right? They're crazy. They have crazy ideas, but they're not dangerous. The other half of the people who were at the conference were revolutionary radical socialists. This is Antifa. You can tell them because they have very distinctive haircuts. They have a very distinctive way that they dress. They are revolutionaries. They are the ones that are dangerous. And I would say, again, I think the revolutionaries were maybe 30% of the conference. The radical hippies were probably another 30%. And then there was kind of a mishmash of people who I didn't really know what group they kind of went with, to be honest. It really could have been either or. But that was kind of the makeup. So there are different kinds of socialists. I'm not worried about the dirty hippies. I'm worried about the revolutionaries. By the way, too, they use the term communist, socialist, and Marxist interchangeably. They do not distinguish between those terms at all. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through the chat. Well, that was the purpose, Dan. Come on. I was in disguise. What do you want? Thank you, Noah. I appreciate it. Did they hand out literature for their next meeting? No. Well, this was a big annual conference. But I'll tell you this. One thing that's weird about the socialists is, so hang on. So I got a whole bunch of stuff like this. These are just like little pamphlets, like from different socialist groups. This is from an organization called Workers' Voice. They don't give out their literature for free. Like, I had to pay like $1 for this because I wanted to see what it looked like. They don't give out their literature for free. You have to pay them money to get it, which is kind of weird because they're like trying to recruit people. But it's also like they say it pays for like the production of the literature, which I guess is, look, revolutionary socialism. Bing. But I got a whole bunch of stuff like this that are just like flyers and takeaways and stuff that I'm going to be breaking down on the Substack. So I'm going to show you what's in this sort of stuff. Look, it looks so socialist too. I'm going to make a whole wall of socialist propaganda. I'm going to make a new project and collect that stuff. But like there's a whole bunch of stuff like this, but you have to pay for it, which is weird. It was weird to me that people who don't believe in capitalism are like charging for a flyer and a leaflet. It was weird, but I did it anyway. Oh, hang on. I have to show you guys this if I can find it. I have to. Where did I put it? No. Found it. I got these Marxist pins from one of the vendors. I was wearing these around on my backpack as part of my disguise. This was like one of their most popular pins. I got the last one. I took it because it was the most popular. And then this is like a Barbie Marxist pin. So I'm creating a collection of like socialist collectibles now. How many of them have kids? A lot. And how many of them would be happy about a faceless collective taking their kids away? They do not. But guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Socialists do not believe that children are the property of their parents. I literally have Sophie Lewis on tape saying children should have multiple layers of parents because the community should be responsible for their care. Socialists do not believe that children belong to their parents. Keep up the good work, Carlin. You have the biggest balls on the internet. Well, I need to take a screenshot of that because that's funny. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it. PNW, I like you because if we agree about 7 out of 10 things, we should talk. I have a really hard time watching Socialism Saturday with you because I would rather have my legs waxed. What you have done and are doing is exceptional. Thank you. Well, listen, guys, this is a good test for whether or not you should infiltrate socialist events, though, and you need to be honest with yourself. I had to sit through 3 days, all day, of socialist presentations. I couldn't even bring my knitting with me. Do you know how much that tortured me? They had a whole crafting corner. They had a whole corner dedicated to knitting, and I couldn't go because I thought it would give me away. I couldn't knit in sessions. I have not gone to a conference in probably 10 years where I haven't brought my knitting with me. It was torture. I had to sit through 3 straight days of presentations. I say this because I trained for this on Socialism Saturday. If you cannot sit through a Socialism Saturday presentation, then you cannot infiltrate socialist events, guys. And you have to be honest about that. And I like, you just really have to be honest with yourself. Because if you cannot sit through an online presentation where we crack jokes and we banter and we drink and we like make it fun, then you cannot sit through a socialist event without giving yourself away. You have to train for it. It's like running a marathon. Has anyone ever run a marathon? I have. I've run 3 against my better judgment. When you run a marathon, you start out running a couple miles, and then you add a mile every single week until you work your way up to 26 miles, okay? You start out maybe running 5 miles, and the next week you run 6 miles, the next week you run 7 miles. You work your way up bit by bit by bit. I trained to do this for a full year. That's why I could do it. You can't just walk into a socialist event and do this stuff. If you can't sit through an online presentation, you can't do it. Let's see. Kristen, please give yourself time to relax. You're awesome. I appreciate that, Kristen. Thank you. That's never going to happen. I will not go on Tim's show, and Tim hates me and blocked me on Twitter because I tried to get Tim to talk to real activists, and so he blocked me on Twitter because Tim believes that the quartering is a real activist. I don't believe the quartering is a real activist. I believe the quartering would piss his pants going to a socialism conference. He wouldn't know what to fucking do. He wouldn't be able to understand it. He wouldn't be able to interact with it. It would take time away from him selling coffee on the internet. But Tim Pool believes that the quartering is a real activist, and I'm not a real activist. And I don't want to go on Tim's show because I would be called fat and ugly for 3 hours, and no one would listen to what I had to say. So, nah, don't think that's going to happen, but thank you. Cassandra Fairbanks was pretty impressed with it, though. I'll tell you that. I was pretty happy about that. I think PragerU's content is trash. I think PragerU is trash. I think PragerU has no values at all. I think PragerU does not believe in individual liberty or freedom. I don't think PragerU should be in schools. That's what I think about it. I know it's going to upset people. That's what I think. I was never on Tim Pool. That is a myth. I was never on Tim Pool, and I never will be on Tim Pool because Tim Pool's way too afraid of me. Way too afraid of me. Hang on. Scrolling through the chat, guys. You guys got to stop using the word praxis. No one understands what the word praxis means. No, I am not teaching you praxis. I am teaching you how things work in the real world. No one understands the word praxis. James Lindsay has lied to you guys to get you to use a word that no one else understands. He really shouldn't have done that. That was a stupid idea. The socialists are significantly more dangerous than the WEF. Every single minute that the conservatives spend wasting reading about the WEF, in addition to the time they waste reading about the books, is time that they lose fighting back against the real enemy. The WEF is not, guys, like, it's a conservative conspiracy theory. I'm sorry. It really, really is. Maybe not entirely. I'm not saying there's no truth to it, but like, it's not that the WEF is not the biggest enemy. It is not the biggest problem. It's not the biggest by a long ass shot. Kudos to Victor for standing by me. Yes, indeed. Kudos to Victor was like texting me all the time. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? He is a saint. That is for sure. And the reason I get so pissed about the WEF stuff is, again, it's a distraction. Conservatives love nothing more than to be distracted by bullshit and nonsense. It's not like you guys create your own enemies that are far bigger. They're like, you, excuse me, I misspoke. You guys create your own enemies and you make them far bigger than your perception of the real enemy that's much more dangerous. Let's see. School boards are a giant ass waste of time. School boards don't control the things that are necessary to make any significant change. School boards are a waste of time. There are 2 states that school boards control the curriculum in: Vermont and Connecticut. Vermont is basically communist at this point, so you can scrub that one off your list. The conservative focus on school boards is simply to raise money for Moms of Liberty. The conservative focus on book banning is simply to raise money for Moms for Liberty. What does Moms for Liberty do? They invest more money in more book banning and more school boards that don't actually accomplish anything, but they all have jobs and they're all paid pretty well and they have big events and they have parties, and that's all that they do. School boards don't accomplish anything. Books don't accomplish anything. Did DeSantis' actions hyper accelerate their plans? No. They use DeSantis and Florida as talking points to rile up their base, but they're not really afraid of DeSantis in Florida. They just use it to activate their people to make them do more. It didn't accelerate anything. It basically just made people it made them a bigger target than what they already were. Antifa will beat your ass and they will not hesitate. These are revolutionary socialists. They train in hand-to-hand combat. They train to beat your ass. They will not hesitate to do it. Bro, I'm telling you, do not walk into a socialist event. I'm giving you really good advice. Don't say I didn't warn you. So you're telling me that conservatives are wasting all their time on issues that don't matter because they don't want to make waves? I guess that's something. If you want to admit that they're useless, I suppose that that's something. There is no taking back the education space. It is impossible to fix in any of our lifetimes because of how bad that we allowed the problem to get. The socialists and the far left have been working to take over education for 100 years. 100 years. A century. More than anyone here probably has been alive. They've been working to take over education. This is not a fixable problem in our lifetime. The only answer is to defund the schools, get your kids out of the schools. That is it. You are not taking back the space. I really need to make this very, very, very clear in no uncertain terms. There is nothing that you can do to take back the space. It is not going to work. They have corrupted 2, possibly even 3 generations of the teaching pool. You cannot undo that in your lifetime. This is the result of conservative inaction. It's gone. And they're accelerating their plans while conservatives are still reading about books. It would be a big waste of time to try to take it back. What you need to do is to defund it. They have mask mandates because they still believe that COVID is a real thing. I strongly doubt they're going to have the mask mandate next year unless they create a new pandemic. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through the chat, guys. I'm a little bit behind. Well, let me be clear. The socialists, when they're charging money for things, it's really cheap. So no, they're not making money off of it. They're charging like it's production costs. They're charging for production costs. They're not being capitalists. And by the way, guys, and again, this is where you have got to watch Socialism Saturday if you're going to interact with socialists. Stop asking why socialists engage in capitalism. Do you know what the answer is? It's in the Communist Manifesto from 150 years ago. They're allowed to engage in capitalism because they live in a capitalist society and there's no way around it. They're allowed to do it as long as they're not part of the bourgeois. So, like, asking, why are you engaging in capitalism if you're a socialist? You sound like you haven't done the basic homework on the people you're talking about because it literally says it in the Communist Manifesto that they're allowed to engage in capitalism because they're not part of the bourgeois. They're just trying to survive within the system. Please come to Socialism Saturday if you want to actually understand this stuff. Yes, they talked about unions. I didn't go to any of those sessions though, but there were a bunch of them. It's just not an area that I focused on with the socialists, but there were a bunch of them. I will publish the full conference schedules on their website, guys. You can go to their website and find out the conference schedule, but I'll show it to you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna start a collection of socialist like propaganda and like t-shirts and posters and stuff because I just think it's fun and a little subversive. Sorry, guys. I'm just scrolling through the chat. I'm trying to make sure I get everyone. Yo, I was like scrolling through my phone, something fierce at the end there, Beth, to like get over the fact that I couldn't knit. How many presentations were there in a day? 5? No, 6. I watched the close. They streamed all the keynotes. We're gonna watch one of the keynotes for Socialism Saturday, by the way, because I haven't watched it yet. They streamed the keynotes, so I didn't go to those in person. I just watched them from my hotel. But yeah, there were like 5 or 6 presentations a day. So I did 2 months worth of Socialism Saturdays in a weekend. So just I'll chew on that. Well, no, because I needed to take notes. Like I needed to take notes. So a sketchbook wouldn't have been would not have been ideal. Did they mention how they will push well, this is actually interesting. Abolish the family does not apply to minority communities. My dog is weighing in now. Abolish the family does not apply to Black communities. It only applies to white communities, but we all know whiteness means capitalism. We're not talking about skin color. Black is about skin color, but whiteness means capitalism. They think that like it means about like the capitalist, the bourgeois. But yeah, they don't actually apply it to the oppressed, which I thought was interesting. I don't know what my dog is barking at. Libertarians embrace the LGBTQ community. Well, I don't know about that. I have seen a lot of anti-trans bullshit coming out of a lot of libertarians lately, and it's not making me happy, to be honest. Is socialism corrupting the LGBT? Okay, so here's the deal. What you need to do, I'm going to murder my dog. What you need to do is to separate lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans people from queer. Queer is a far left political ideology that comes from queer Marxism that's socialist, okay? Any queer activists are socialist activists. The queer Marxist hijacked the LGBT community. You have to separate queer from LGBT. That is the key to this. Let's see. I know I'm way behind in the chat. Bresmanoff said the only real way to put a stop to this is by physical force because, like you said, no. You guys have got to stop advocating for violence. Anytime you guys say stuff like this, you are asking for trouble. Stop advocating for violence. I read your super chat. Maybe you missed it. I definitely read it, though. I'll double check to make sure you didn't send me a different one, but... Yeah, I read your super chat, PNW. Is there a boss or a leader for socialists? No. They're communists, guys. There's no boss, there's no leader. They're communists. This is why their sessions are set up the way they are, with people presenting and then the audience engaging in the discussion, because they do not have a hierarchy. Everyone is on the same page. The elites in socialism are the activists, the people publishing the most books, the people doing the most work, the people running the best collective. The activists are their rock stars, the authors, the activists. That's who they idolize. That's why Angela Davis is like their goddess, because she's published a lot of books. If I see one more chat about the WEF, I'm going to start banning anyone who's talking about the WEF. Am I being clear? The WEF has nothing to do with this. If you continue to talk about the WEF, I'm going to assume that you're not a serious person that's serious in learning about what we're talking about, because you keep bringing in an organization that literally has nothing to do with this. No more chats about the WEF. That is a conservative conspiracy obsession. It is not related to this at all. Do Marxists fear anyone or are no. No, they don't. No. They're not afraid of any of what we're doing. They will use the right to rile people up, but they're not legitimately afraid of the right. Are the small steps to take to help us? Come to Socialism Saturday. I know you guys don't like it when I show my content because you're like, it's self-serving, right? But like, if you do not understand the enemy that you are fighting, then there's nothing you can do. The very first thing that you need to do is to understand the problem that you're dealing with. And you guys have been lied to by a lot of people about what the actual problem is. There is no one out there covering this right now, with the possible exception of Andy No, whose work I think is impeccable, but I don't think he's actively covering this like I am. He's not covering this specific like community like I am. There is no one out there covering this community like I'm covering it right now. If you guys think there is, let me know, because I'd like to talk to them, but I don't know of anyone else that's doing this. So come to Socialism Saturday and learn about the enemy that you're fighting. That's what you can do. There was no smell, guys. These are not dirty hippies. These are not people who don't take care of themselves. You guys underestimate these people so fucking much, and that's why you continue to get your asses kicked by them. No one smelled bad at this conference, guys. That's the reality. That's not real. There were no mentally ill people at this conference. There are people who have crazy ideas. There are people who have different values. There were no mentally ill people at this conference. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're kicking your ass. They're kicking your asses. So what does that say about you, that you're losing to people who you judge so harshly as degenerates and like fools? Tayton, they completely misuse the word fascist. In their mind, fascist is capitalism. That's right. Real fascism is the ideology of thinking with the blood of your nation. Yeah, well, they misuse the term fascist because they use it to represent capitalism, like you said. But that, like, calling out how their language is wrong, guys, is not going to solve the problem. Can we stop being surprised that real socialists change the definitions of words? They've been doing this for a century. They've been doing this as long as any of us have been alive. Can we stop being surprised that socialists are changing the definition of words? We have to deal with the problem at some point. Continuing to point out, but go, ha ha, they don't know the definition of fascism, ha ha. What is that accomplishing? Is it accomplishing anything? No, it's not. Remember, the conservative right was worried about Harry Potter and video games corrupting the youth. Oh yeah. Isn't that the truth, man? Isn't that the truth? Every single minute the conservative right spent bitching about Harry Potter and fucking video games. And all the while, the socialists are getting themselves into teacher colleges, getting themselves into teaching positions, getting themselves into principal positions, getting themselves into positions where they're influencing kids, and conservatives were reading about goddamn Harry Potter. Ain't that the truth, man? Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? All right, bro. So keep sending your kids to public schools and keep having them be indoctrinated into socialism, and don't say I didn't fucking warn you because you didn't want to listen. Like, I'm so sick of this shit. Like, honestly. Can I just tell you guys, like, my patience was already really thin with conservatives, but having now spent quite literally 3 straight days with socialist organizers, do you guys understand, like, how much more ridiculous conservatives look to me now? That I spent 3 straight days embedded with socialist organizers? It's like having children crying that they want an ice cream cone and then throwing a temper tantrum that you're not going to give them the flavor that they want. That's how conservatives look to me right now. Honest to God. Because I was with the big kids. I was with the fucking adults that have a plan, that are motivated, that are driven, that are fucking relentless about what they're doing. And then I come out of that and, like, I'm greeted with, like, conservatives, like, it's like, and they think that's productive, and it's like, they have no idea. They have no idea the enemy that they're fighting. They have no idea. We are going to lose so badly. Because half the country just doesn't give a fuck. They don't care. They just want memes and clickbait and memes and clickbait and memes and clickbait. That's all they want. Is DeAngelis effective defunding with school vouchers? No. But hang on. Someone in the chat just said, so organize it, Carlin. Fuck you right off. Hang on. Philip, I'm going to come back to your question in a sec. Oh, shit. I just went way down in the chat. That was a super chat, though. Fuck right off. Fuck right off. I've done enough. You organize it. You do something. I'm not even a conservative. Conservatives have treated me like shit for 2.5 years. And you think I'm going to organize them to fight back? Fuck right off with that. Now we'll go back to this. No. What Corey DeAngelis is pushing is not going to fix the public schools. However, what Corey DeAngelis is doing is a necessary part of the change management process that will force parents in to looking at the schools more critically and asking questions that could eventually lead to more people waking up to the fact that the schools are the problem. So I don't mind what Corey DeAngelis is doing, and I'm not shit-talking Corey DeAngelis, because I think that what he's doing is a necessary part of the change management process. Bro, you're fucking anonymous on the internet. Go fuck yourself. You are anonymous on the internet. You ain't doing shit. Not doing shit. God. Nope, I do not have real conservatives mixed up with MAGA. Nope, 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 nope. You are one and the same. You all behave the same. And listen, bro, you're fucking whining that I'm telling you how badly you're losing and you're getting your fee-fees hurt. This is why you will always lose. This is why. This is why. This is why. This is why you will always fucking lose. People act like Carlin doesn't already have a job fighting the woke. She can't do everything. That's goddamn right. I can't do everything. It's like when people rag on Scott Pressler for not going to a particular county. He's one person. Conservatives worked Scott Pressler into the hospital. That's the truth. Do nothing conservatives worked Scott Pressler into the hospital. What are my main takeaways? I don't know right now, but I'll probably be writing about it at some point. Does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to ask at this point? Let me know. Murphy's Pool is a hero. Yes, he is. He's not going to like me saying that, but yes, he is. At work, but keep fighting. Thank you, Mandatory Carry. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate the message you sent me the other day as well. All right. I skipped a lot of the chat, guys, because I was way behind, so I apologize if I missed it. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it for right now. What is the schedule looking like this week? I'm basically trying to get out as many of the clips as, I'm going to be on Liz Wheeler's show next week. A lot of people have been telling me that like Liz Wheeler Liz Wheeler and I have been DMing about this, and I want to do like shout out to Liz Wheeler, because Liz Wheeler is actually one of the people taking this seriously. And she did cover the ALA thing today, and we're going to do a show next week where we're going to walk through several of the clips and we're going to talk about them, and not just the ALA thing. She wants to hear about all of it. And so shout out to Liz Wheeler for that. If you are in the vicinity of watching Larry O'Connor, I should be on his show tonight, or maybe I was already on his show. I don't know. I pre-taped an interview with him this morning. A bunch of conservative talk radio people have reached out to me to talk about it. So like, I don't know, like I'm not reaching out to media, like they're reaching out to me. So you might see me pop up here and there. So that's kind of cool actually that people are actually covering it. That's not something I'm going to get into now, to be honest. I've covered it on the Substack before. You'll have to ask me another time. That's a big conversation. It doesn't matter in the slightest. The philanthropist, or philosophist, excuse me. Gosh darn it. Driving, you're a soldier. Thank you, Carlin. Thank you, philosophist. I appreciate it. Well, email Steve and tell him, Beth. Maybe he'll have me on. Who knows? All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here for right now. I do want to remind everyone that because this is Tuesday, this is not the last stream I'll be doing today. This is but the first stream I'll be doing today. And I will be live with Joshua in about 2 hours. I'm going to work until then. We are doing nothing remotely controversial tonight. Joshua is going to show you what my astrological chart looked like, so you can kind of see how the astrology predicted this whole event, which is kind of cool. He showed it to me earlier. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to to take your questions as well. So that's going to be in about 2 hours starting at 9:30 tonight. Nothing remotely controversial. And again, guys, please make sure you are signed up for the Substack. And if you do want to support the work I'm doing, sign up for a paid subscription, which is $8 a month or $80 a year. I paid about $3,000 out of pocket for this conference. And so I'm really hoping to recoup my expenses with new memberships, if I'm honest about it. And I'm doing pretty well so far. So I want to thank everyone who signed up as a supporter in the last day or so. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who sent in super chats. I do appreciate it. And there's future stuff I want to do, guys. Just because I can't do this specific conference again doesn't mean I can't do other stuff. So if you want me infiltrating more events, if you want me going to more conferences and telling you what's really going on, someone's got to pay for that. There's hotel rooms, there's plane tickets, there's equipment, there's time. So make sure you're signing up as a paying member if you can. $8 a month, $80 a year. It really does help me out. And that's all I've got, guys. Thank you guys for the support. We're going to be talking a lot about the different stories that are going to be coming out. We didn't get into them today because I was just kind of doing a download. But there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff coming out. Please make sure you're sharing it. I'm not doing this work for my health, guys. Please make sure you're sharing it out. And that's all I have for today, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys in a couple hours. Bye.